eligibility process is the process of determining the eligibility for students to receive free and reduced price meals. It's a required process for SFAs participating in the school meals program. It begins July 1st each school year, and students' eligibility, once established for the school year, is good for the entire school year. So once a student is determined eligible for this upcoming school year, they have year-long eligibility. If their status would change and perhaps maybe they're approved for reduced benefits and they have a change in situation and submit a application that would make them eligible for free benefits, then benefits can increase. But they should not have a reduction in benefits unless the household has contacted the SFA and have asked for a reduction in benefits. But we have year-long eligibility. So really want to emphasize that, important to know. And the process of determination of eligibility cannot result in what is called overt identification. So that is ensuring that the student's eligibility status is not disclosed at any point in the process of providing free and reduced price meals. We want our households to know that any information they submit, any eligibility that is determined for their children, is all confidential. We want households to apply for meal benefits. Carryover of eligibility. Children that were approved for free and reduced meal benefits at the end of the previous year, so we're talking school year 23-24, may begin the new school year with the same meal benefits they received the prior school year. This is very important. We do not want a break in benefits. And so if they were eligible last school year, then that eligibility can be extended up to 30 operating days, and we're talking school days, or up to the time the student's name is on the direct certification list, indicating that they're automatically eligible for directly certified free or Medicaid reduced, or a new application has been submitted and a determination of eligibility has been made on the application. So it's not an automatic 30 days. It's up until the time when a new eligibility determination has been made. If they do not appear on the direct certification list or an application is not received from the household for that student on the 31st operating day, their status changes to paid. And so that's very important. You need to ensure that you are well aware of what that 30th operating day is. And on that 31st operating day, those students that have not been determined for eligibility in school year 24-25 are moved to paid. So I cannot overemphasize that there is a grace period, but that grace period ends.
Sean, I don't know if I'm not seeing the correct slide on my screen.
Oh,
Or,
sorry. Okay, Allie, we talked about overt identification. And then we're talking about carryover of eligibility. So I'm going to let you have a minute or two to look at that slide. Thank you, Erica. I am looking at the slides on a different screen. So everyone understand that grace period that's extended, and that's for a district's benefit. That's for an SFA's benefit, to get applications, to make that determination, to ensure that the direct certification list has been reviewed, notifications have been sent. So it's a grace period for the families, and it's a benefit to a district. Let's move to the next slide. Eligibility overview. And this is where we're going to take that deeper dive in how to determine eligibility. There's two processes for determining eligibility. There's direct certification, which Jenna will be talking about next. That is categorically eligibility for free and reduced benefits based on the student matching with SNAP, TANF, Temporary Assistance to Needy Families, FDPIR, which is food distribution on Indian reservations, foster, having a migrant status, Medicaid, free, Medicaid reduced. And then it is the process of the meal application, the free and reduced price meal application, submitting that application and the determination being made on income and household size, or they have not matched with an assistance program, but they are receiving assistance, and they've indicated that by providing information on the application. So we're going to dive much more into each one of those. We can, at the top part, we can see the picture of what the direct certification system looks like. And then at the bottom, we can see what a meal application looks like. So why don't we go ahead and stand and stretch, and then we can move on to direct certification with Jenna.
Sounds great. Thanks, Sean. I'm going to get my screen set up here. All right. Everyone can see direct certification, jumping right in?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. All right, give you one more minute to stretch, and I'll just start with a really brief introduction to the direct certification system. I think the process of direct certification, navigating, getting students matched and notifying them sometimes can feel a little bit overwhelming, but hoping this morning that you feel like you have a good idea of what your work needs to be related to providing these benefits to students, and that you understand the system a little bit more. And at minimum, know where to go when you have questions. We see a lot of questions with DC. There's always some just strange situations. There's unique instances with households that we need to look a little bit more into. So we hope that you feel confident with the system, but know who to address those questions to as they come up, because they certainly will. So direct certification is really a simplified way of determining which of your students qualify for free or reduced meal benefits. If a student appears on your direct certification match list, they are not required to submit a meal application. They're not required to provide income. Those benefits can be extended automatically to those households. And so utilizing direct certification allows you to extend more benefits to students that you know qualify, reduces your workload for the number of applications that your school district needs to review, and helps these households get the benefits that they need. Sometimes they don't even know that they qualify and they appear on a direct certification list. So it's really a great benefit and great system for providing as many free and reduced meals as you can to your students. This is the direct certification process, and it's really broad, but want to make sure you kind of understand how the process works before we dive into the CNP system and data that we need from you. So the first process for a match to happen, for a student to appear on your match list, is that their student record needs to be updated. And what that means is within the Person ID advisor system, we need to see that that student is enrolled in a Nebraska school for either the current or, at this point during the summer, the upcoming school year. The next step here is that a student needs to appear in either the DHHS or the NDE database. And these databases are essentially a list of students that will qualify for benefit programs, SNAP, Medicaid, FDPIR, TANF. These programs are all monitored, and those students appear in a DHHS database. Here at NDE, we monitor and keep a record of students that qualify for migrant. So students will need to appear in one of those two lists. All right, so we have a student that shows they're enrolled in Nebraska. They appear on one of those two databases. That's step 3. This is when the DC system can indicate a 100% match. And that 100% means that their name matches on both lists, their date of birth, and their gender. If all things are right, if things are working as they should, then that student will appear on your match list and would then automatically qualify for benefits without the submission of any kind of application or additional documentation. So this is the process. Again, really basic, laid out. But what I want to focus on first and kind of primarily here at the start is that student record being updated. And for those that have been doing this work for a while, there might be some new and updated information, especially related to student records this year. Our team, we've worked really closely with the data research and evaluation team, who are critical for the matching process. And we have kind of solidified a relatively new process or a new ask when it comes to schools to try to make matching more consistent, more effective, and really hopefully actually lessen the load on schools when it comes to providing us with student records. So here on this screen, you'll see that there are 2 methods for making sure that students enrolled at your school districts are showing as such in our databases and can then be matched for benefits. So our preferred method, what we ask that every school district does, is utilize the advisor person ID system to ensure that students show as enrolled in a Nebraska school for the current school year. There is an upload guide, which we'll dive into here in the next couple slides, but that outlines how you, maybe, and it might be some people in the room, it might be someone else within your school district, whoever navigates and utilizes that advisor person ID system. There's a guide that's been created by DRE that will help you ensure that you can either update students individually or by a batch process to showcase that they do participate in your school district this year. The advisor person ID system is open now for uploading. So you might have, you may not have a complete roster. Things will certainly change over these next couple months. But if you have a roster of core students that you know will be enrolled at your school district next year, you're able to go in and upload that roster into the advisor person ID system now at any time. It actually opened back in June. So you can do that work now, which can then mean your match list could start populating with accurate matches as soon as July 2nd, if you can get in and update that person ID student enrollment list. Okay, that's preferred, and DRE is going to require that you update student enrollment information in person ID advisor anyways. So again, that might be work that you do, but it also might require you to collaborate with whoever at your school district works in advisor person ID to make sure that this is getting done as it impacts your matching. The secondary method, and this one you might be a little bit more familiar with, it's one we've talked about these past couple years, is adding an enrollment record into the DC system. So this is the CNP system that you utilize for applications and for claims. You've maybe noticed there's a direct certification module that has an enrollment tab. And what you can do is put together, again, a spreadsheet of students that will be enrolled within your school district next year. You can upload that into the DC system, but you'll notice you can't upload that until the 8th of July. And we have that date in place just to make sure we can clear out all of the old student data from previous years to ensure that the matches populating on your match lists are accurate for school year 24-25. Have a note here that updated student data is the best way to make sure that that match list is accurate, includes students for the current or upcoming school year. And it's the best way to get these matches done in a timely manner, which you guys all know, if you're able to get these notification letters sent out still this summer, it really reduces the number of applications that you'll receive. It reduces the work you have to do when it comes to verification. So getting these matches on the match list and notifications sent out as early as you can, it benefits everyone. All right, so I've referenced this resource here for advisor person ID, and I want to highlight that DRE, so a separate team within NDE, they monitor and they work on the advisor person ID system. So I have a couple blue boxes here and then the next slide about reaching out for help, the advisor help at nebraskacloud.org. That will be the best resource for you. You can let us know that you're having some issues or questions. We'll send you to that team to try to get anything worked out. These rosters can be uploaded at any point in time. It opened here on June 1st. And this is required at this point in the year for both publics and non-publics. If you operate or are part of a public school system, you are probably thinking about the point in time that advisor turns on. And what that process means is a public school that utilizes a student information system can then utilize advisor, which connects what you enter in the student information system to the data that we have access to at NDE. That date of turning on for advisor is going to be September 15th. Up until that date, we will still ask our public schools to go in and manually update or enroll students in Person ID Advisor. That is public schools, because after the 15th, you update student enrollment in student information system, that comes over to us. We're able to utilize that data for matching. If you're a non-public school though, you utilize Person ID throughout the entire school year. Advisor never turns on for you. You are required to do these manual uploads throughout the year. The same thing here for matching. You'll need to go in, update students that have transferred in, go into Person ID, establish those new NDE student IDs. That work has to be done before a student can appear on your match list. Again, this is the advisor person ID, this handout. It has a lot of really good information, how to navigate that toolbar, because it does look different than our CNP system. Entering individual students or doing those batch uploads, depends on the size of your school, what works best. Guidance for finding students, downloading any of those current files, and then formatting, just like we require for our template. You have to upload a certain template into Advisor for the data to be collected. Again, this might be work that you do. You might be really familiar and comfortable with working in Person ID Advisor, or it might be someone else within your school staff. Making sure you know who that person is and being able to collaborate with them can help you have an accurate match list that's done in a timely fashion. Again, the email for help is right here on this message. Okay, so we've talked about the preferred method of going into Person ID Advisor and uploading, updating student enrollment record files. We're going to move more into this secondary option now, which, if you remember, required you to navigate into the CNP system for our direct certification system and then upload an enrollment file there. So we'll start at the basics here. How do you get into direct certification? You're going to navigate to CNP. You might have access to different programs. Maybe you operate both school lunch during the school year, and summer food service. You're going to want to click on that blue school nutrition program box, which you'll also see noted up here. This title that's in bold, that's the program that you're navigating into within CNP. So make sure you're in school nutrition programs. Then when you click on applications, you should see a link listed under one of those items for direct certification, direct verification. You'll click on that, and then you'll have to click a second link. And this second link, as you can see on the right side of your page, this will actually get you into the DC system. You'll know you've made it when you see all of these different colored tiles. And we'll eventually go through all of these tiles, showcase what they can do, different actions you can take. But again, I want to focus here on our secondary method of uploading, updating student records. And we're going to focus here on this orange enrollment tile. Again, this is a secondary option, but is one that both publics and non-publics can use for updating your student records and getting students to appear on that match list. There is a specific template, which we'll dive into, that you're required to utilize, but please don't go in and upload any files until the 8th of July. We're going to clear everything out, upload after the 8th, and that's when we can start utilizing the secondary method for matching. All right, so you've made it here into the enrollment tab. The screen that you're going to see is going to have a few different options from the start, but we want to focus on utilizing that Excel template to ensure that you can have a successful upload process. That template is here. You can click on this link, and what it'll do is pull up a separate Excel file on your computer that you can then utilize to enter your student enrollment data. This is what that template looks like. We are going to go through column by column, hopefully address any questions that you have or highlight what data we're looking for on each of these columns, and all will be required except for that local student ID, column B. So let's head in. Column A, school building number. This is going to be a numeric 3-digit number that is the school building associated with that student per advisor person ID. So if you aren't sure how to find the school building number, you're not sure if it's the same for all of your students, navigate to advisor person ID or have a staff member at your school help you get there, and make sure the number listed here on this template matches what you see in advisor person ID. We'll tell you the school building number here is not always going to match the site that a student is enrolled at that you see in the CNP system. There's a better chance if you are a smaller school district, maybe you have a single site, 2 sites, 3 sites, there's a chance that those numbers might be the same. But the CNP system site numbers are not the same as what we find in advisor person ID. So utilize advisor person ID for an exact school building number when it comes to adding it here on your enrollment file. The local student ID, again, this is not required. These are IDs that are maybe specific to that school or specific to your district. It can be any combination of numbers and letters, whatever system you've created at your district. You're welcome to include it here if it helps you keep organized and track all of your students, but it's not going to be required for this upload into the enrollment file. All right, column C, our NDE student ID is very much required for matching. This is a huge, kind of a central part of a successful match between a student and within our data and then whatever DHHS or also within our team has to match for benefits. So for your NDE student ID, this is a 10-digit numeric ID that is unique to each student. There should not be duplicate NDE student IDs. Either you or someone at your school has had to go into the person ID system at some point when this student first enrolled at your school and generated a person ID, or if they were a transfer, you were able to access that information again in the person ID system. I have had quite a bit of schools that have gone in and attempted to upload a file, and one of the issues they run into is that they leave this column blank because that student doesn't have an NDE student ID. They have their local student ID, which they've been using, within their files and their student information system. But it's required that all students have an NDE student ID, not just for matching, but for tracking purposes. So if you're missing this, it means you need to go back into Person ID and establish that NDE student ID for all of your students. All right, so our next two columns here, and we're still on this enrollment file. This is what you'll upload into the enrollment tab. These are the last and first name, which seems pretty straightforward, but as you know, names can be a little bit tricky. When you are uploading this file, you want to make sure that you're avoiding any nicknames. You want the student name to match what is in Person ID, and that can be especially important if you have a hyphenated name or a last name, that includes maybe 1, 2, or 3 different last names or words. All right, this needs to match what we see in Person ID. We'll dive into the possible match list later here this morning, but know that there are a few other resources. If a student can't be found on the match list, they may be appearing on the possible match list because the data you entered here is slightly different than what we see in our qualifying program databases. Student gender, you can just enter M or F. If you enter male or female, the words typed out, the file will error out. So just go ahead and put an M or an F here in the student gender column. And then with student birth date, this is alphanumeric again, and there's 2 different formatting options. You can either put the year first or you can put the year at the end. The file will require you to enter the birth date in either one of those 2 options. You can select from those 2. Okay. A few more tips for a successful upload, and this is really related to file type and utilizing our template. The file will either need to be uploaded as an Excel file, which you'll know because it will say .xls at the end of the file name, or a CSV file, .csv. One of those 2 file types will work. When you save the file, you can indicate which file type you want it to be saved as. Making sure your data is formatted correctly, so following those rules we just went through that are also included on that template guidance up at the top. Okay. All right, you've done the work of compiling all of that student data, you've formatted it correctly, you've saved it as an XLS or a CSV file. You're ready to go now to that student enrollment tab. You'll select your file, which you can see here on the screen, step 1, that dark blue box. Navigate within your own computer, find the file that you want. It'll populate in that blank field, and then you'll click on step 2, the green box that says upload. And that's how your data for that secondary method gets added to the DC system for matching. You will know that the file has been processed, the upload has been successful, which when you scroll down, still within that enrollment tab, past where you upload, past where you can enter individual students, you'll start to see student records populating in the submitted student enrollment records section. And this will include the information, the data exactly as you entered it within that spreadsheet. You do sometimes have to be a little bit patient, and this is hard for me too if I'm working with a school. We want to see this populate right away. If you have a really long list of students, if you have a big file, a lot of enrolled students, it can take up to 5 minutes, and it can definitely take clicking on refresh within your CNP system, or even logging out and logging back in. So you have to give the system just a little bit of time to see these files uploaded, but you'll know it's successful if you see those student names populating here. Okay, a few errors. So things to be looking out for if you're running into issues when trying to upload this enrollment data list. Any errors are going to be highlighted in orange, as you can see here on this example. An NDE student ID was entered, but it's all zeros. So the system caught that. They'll identify those errors in orange. You also have the option to navigate here to your display only errors. When you click on that button, it's going to show only the student records that need to be corrected. You are able, within the enrollment tab, to upload as many files as you want or as you need. So let's say, like you can see the results here, this was a large group of students where we had close to 6,000 student entries uploaded. You could go through and maybe you have 20 students in error. You're welcome to correct those student data lines. Upload a file that contains just those 20 students in error, and then you'll see that repopulate or added to your enrollment record list. You can upload as many files as you need to make sure your enrollment is complete. You want to and need to include every student enrolled with you, even if you know that they don't qualify for benefits or you don't think that they'll receive anything. You need all of your students included here on the enrollment file to make those matches as accurate as possible. Right, a few other things to kind of be looking out here for if you run into errors in the upload process. Usually if there's an issue with the file type, if there is a big formatting issue, or it's possible your internet went out for a second or there was some disruption in service, you might see this yellow error message. Go ahead and try to upload again. If you continue to see this message, continue to run into issues, get in touch with our team, and we'll figure out a way to make sure this enrollment file can go through. The other piece, and upload is not complete, this doesn't mean it wasn't successful, but you want to check for completeness. Like I said, every student should be included. You want to make sure that you're reviewing the number of results that are populating in that submitted student enrollment record section. This should be all of your students. I've run into quite a few times too, where a school has 100 students, but they're only showing 15 results. And what we often see is when you go back to that template that they uploaded, that Excel file, inadvertently a blank data line got entered. And so the system only thought that there were 15 students. They didn't realize there were more after that blank line. So if you don't see enough results populating here, go back to your original file, look through all your cells, make sure they contain data, and attempt to either re-upload or add in those additional students that are missing. Okay, a few other common errors that we see, certainly related to those school ID codes, entering a 1 instead of a 001. Different last names, like I noted, the hyphenated names, the multiple last names, that can make it difficult to match. Not impossible, and we have other tools to get those students added to the match list, but can make it a little bit tricky. I put duplicate student entries on here, and I guess I wouldn't qualify that so much as an error. If a student appears more than one time on that student enrollment section, it's not bad, it's not prohibitive, it's not a negative thing. If you like to keep your list clean, if you like to ensure that you have each student listed once, you're welcome to delete students out of that list so there's not any duplicates. It's not going to harm anything, but it's something that you can clean up if you'd like to. Those missing or incomplete NDE student IDs, it's a critical part of the matching process. And so if a student doesn't have a complete or correct NDE ID, they aren't going to show up on your match list. Entering those full gender names again, and then incorrect file format. We sometimes see text documents that are trying to be uploaded, other types of files within the Excel system. Make sure it's Excel or CSV. We also have a really helpful guide that is in your packet, one of your handouts that's available to you. This has everything from formatting requirements to walking you directly through the upload process. How do you prepare the file? And on top of this resource too, you'll see our email address should you have any questions or concerns listed on the bottom of this slide as well in that blue box. Okay, we'll keep going. There's a lot of DC content that we want to get through this morning. So hopefully we can explain it in a way that makes sense. We wanted to include some relative timelines here, thinking about all that you have to do the rest of the summer, starting at the beginning of the year, which I would imagine is a very busy time. Wanted to let you know when we look to have some of these different tasks completed for successful matching. We've talked about a lot of this. You have the option on or after June 1st to complete that preferred method of student record updating using advisor or person ID. On or after July 8th is when you can go through that process we just talked about of uploading a file into the enrollment tab for matching. And you'll notice here on the left-hand top left of the screen, this is specific to non-public SFAs. We ask that you manually go in and complete that upload either in advisor, person ID, or enrollment on a regular basis from July until June. The matching process will happen every night. And so we ask that you provide us with the regularity that makes sense for you that you can manage throughout the year. Regularly provide us with new enrollment information so those matches can be made as quickly as possible. This is for our publics, very, very similar, as you'll note, for the advisor uploads, for the enrollment uploads, those top two sections. But then you'll see a little bit of a change for when you need to manually upload into person ID or the DC tab. That runs from July till the 14th of September. Starting on the 15th, like I noted earlier, that's when the advisor system will turn on and it can interface with your student information system. At that point, if you go in and update your student information system, we'll receive that update and utilize that for matching. The only exception here is even for public schools, you'll still need to go into person ID to create a new NDE student ID for a student that is new to a school here in Nebraska. That's going to be required no matter what. But if it's a transfer, if it's a student that is no longer attending your school, you can indicate that in the student information system. We'll receive it and then match accordingly. Okay. All right, so we have very much highlighted the student data, the student record portion of direct certification. So you've updated that student information. It behind the scenes every night is creating those matches. Now it's time for you to head into the match list, which is the green tile within the DC system. And this is going to be your list of students who qualify directly for either free or reduced benefits. Like I said earlier, if a student appears on this match list, they don't need to do anything else to receive free or reduced benefits. The other thing is once a student appears on your match list, they qualify for benefits through the duration of that school year and then into your carryover period. This stays true even if a student was a foster student in August and got adopted in December. If they appeared on that match list as foster in August, they can receive those benefits throughout the entire year, even if their status changes from foster to adopted. The same thing, if a household maybe qualified for SNAP in October, but does not qualify in March, they still can receive free meals from the point that they appeared on the match list on throughout the remainder of the school year and then into your carryover period. Matching is done on a nightly process, and so you'll be able to see the last list date or when the last matching took place for your district based on your students on this green tile in the bottom right-hand corner. You'll see it highlighted on the screen here in red. All right, so this is what the match list looks like. This is what you're going to see starting, as soon as you're able to get your student record information updated, you may start to see matches populating as early as July 2nd, if you can get that work done here the rest of this week and then early next week. But if not, whenever your match list starts to populate, this is what you're going to be able to see. There's a lot of different search from functions for the match list, which at the beginning of the year, you're typically, going to want to search all dates. You want to see who so far has been matched for benefits. Those search dates can be really helpful too when it comes to verification time for you to know who qualified for what benefits by the 31st of October. A few other features here, you can navigate and manipulate the data here in the match list pretty well. You can sort by all of those header names that are highlighted here in orange. But notice you also have the export list button on this screen, and that will pull all of your matching data into an Excel spreadsheet or another file type of your choosing, which can make it a little easier to sort, to update, to utilize for printing, which we'll talk about here in a second. Right? So for your students, the list date will appear their qualifying program. So we saw them, we confirmed they were a student in Nebraska. The qualifying program will either be what was indicated for them on that DHHS spreadsheet or our NDE spreadsheet if it lists migrant. Other details, as you can see here, that we've talked through already. Again, that local ID, it's included here on this example. There may not be any data in there, and that's okay. It's not required for matching. You, as a school personnel, will also within that match list have the option to take 3 different actions related to each of your students on the match list. Of greatest importance, I think, with these actions is to note that this is optional. You are not required to accept, transfer, or remove your students from the match list. If they appear on that list, they can be issued benefits even if you don't accept. This is for more, and I'm kind of this way, those organized types that like to accept, transfer out, remove, they want their match list to be accurate to who qualifies for benefits on that day. And you're welcome to do that here with these different actions. Also want to highlight, if you do not transfer out or remove a student from your match list, they still can qualify and can appear on another district's match list, even if you don't take that action. So there's nothing, negative happening here. It's not like a student won't be issued benefits that they qualify for if you don't hit transfer or remove. It's up to your discretion whether this is something you want to maintain. Do know too that we have a report, which we'll highlight here in a little bit, that provides a list of the previous year and the current year of any actions that you take here, along with the comments that you enter. So you'll be able to go back and review this information after you take any action on your students. Okay, so qualifying programs. These are the benefits that the students will receive, and this is how they are matched. So we know whether they qualify automatically for free meals or for reduced meals. This is the list of all of the qualifying programs, these qualifiers you might see on your match list. And you'll notice on the far right side here, we have different priority levels. You've maybe seen this before, that you have a student or a household that actually qualifies for 2 programs on this list. You might have a student that is, a migrant student, but they qualify for SNAP benefits. The student will always appear with the program of highest priority on your match list, and you are able to issue benefits to the program of highest priority on your match list. The only time that we may see a change within a student on a match list would be if they maybe at the beginning of the year started off with Medicaid reduced benefits. So let's say in August, they initially appeared on your match list as Medicaid reduced, and you sent out a notification that student in your student information system was receiving reduced benefits. But it's possible in November, maybe they now qualify for SNAP. So you'll see that student re-added to your match list at a higher priority level. From that point on, they can receive those free meals as opposed to reduced. Students, like I said, can never move down in priority. If they're issued that foster benefit, and even if that changes, they drop off, they don't qualify for anything, they continue to receive those benefits throughout the school year and then into the carryover period. You'll notice here all of these categories allow students to qualify for free meals other than Medicaid. And what I really would like to focus on now are these household extensions. You'll see that column, the second from the right. And this indicates whether students within the household can also receive benefits for these programs. I'll explain it here in a little bit more depth. So let's say you have a student that appeared on your match list and they qualify for SNAP, TANF, Medicaid, or FDPIR. You'll notice the categories I did not include. This does not include your migrant students, does not include your foster, and does not include your homeless. Those 3 categories are student specific and they cannot be extended throughout the household. But okay, so let's find an example student here. We have a student, he qualified for SNAP. So we'll move on to our second circle here. Let's say that student, his brother, lives within the same household, but didn't appear on the match list for whatever reason. And we define or categorize household as a group of related or non-related individuals who live as one economic unit. So big brother qualified, younger brother lives within the same household, older brother qualifies for SNAP. You are able to extend benefits to that younger brother and any other students that reside within that household at that SNAP level. Okay, so these benefits can be extended. Those other students within the household can receive free meals just by residing in that same household together. You'll want to update your student information system accordingly. Make sure that you have documented that this student now qualifies for free meals based on household extension. But like we'll see in this next slide, that doesn't always mean they're going to appear on that match list. We think that they should, but there may be something preventing them from appearing on that match list, but they are still eligible based on household extension. When we come out for a review and asked to look at all of your direct certification, your matching lists, we ask that you're able to make a link between the students that appear on the match list and those that you extended household benefits to. So making sure that you're printing and saving your list and manually maybe writing the name of these students you're extending benefits to if they don't appear or aren't matched by CNP. Making sure that you have a documentation, a trail of how that student was issued benefits is really important. And Sean talked about carryover already a little bit this morning, but making sure that you're utilizing and remembering that these extended benefits also qualify for carryover. So if you have, again, let's think of that household again, our older brother received SNAP, a younger brother was enrolled that same school year, so he received SNAP. But now this fall, their little sister is going to start kindergarten. She would qualify for those carryover benefits, and we would then hope to see at least one of those students within the household qualify for school year 24-25. Then they all could be extended benefits for this next school year. Okay, so that's extension. Remembering which programs you can extend benefits for, what a household, how we define that, and then also focusing on that carryover period being the same. 3 kind of critical pieces to household benefit extension. Another common question that I get is about Medicaid students, and this might be a question that you've run into too at your school. There's a huge variety of different Medicaid programs that exist within Nebraska, and not all of those Medicaid programs result in receiving either free or reduced meal benefits. And one of the biggest reasons for that is not all Medicaid programs require a guardian to provide income information. And that's what we utilize for matching with the direct certification system, is that income component. So only students that appear on that direct certification list will qualify for Medicaid benefits. Again, you might have a household coming to you, telling you they received Medicaid, showing you a card, demonstrating that they received these funds. They don't appear on that match list. You cannot provide them with directly certified benefits. They are encouraged, and it's recommended that that household that qualifies for Medicaid submit an income application. It's possible they might qualify this way, but you would need some sort of documentation other than direct certification that would qualify them for benefits. Some students in the same household can be Medicaid reduced and some can be Medicaid free, depending on the program that they qualify for. Extend the highest level, so those Medicaid free benefits, to everyone within the household when it comes to Medicaid benefit extension. I added this table here too, because I think CHIP is one of the Medicaid programs I hear a lot about, of how students qualify for CHIP, but then we don't see them on the match list. And you can see here the biggest difference is that federal poverty line. So to qualify for Medicaid, that guardian or guardians need to make 138% of the federal poverty line. But for CHIP, that's upped quite a bit, 200% of federal poverty line, which then means they don't meet the income guidelines for free or reduced meals. So there is a rhyme, there is a reason. If you run into examples of Medicaid households that think that they qualify and they are being very persistent, please let me know, let our team know, and we can take an individual look at those students and ensure that the data we have from DHHS is correct and accurate and that they wouldn't qualify through direct certification. But again, encourage them to submit an income application. They may qualify that way. Okay, so for printing the match list, we have been working on this for a while, trying to get that print list button to work. It is still not working as we would like it to. And so what you can actually do for that match list, like I indicated, is you can export that list as an Excel file type, and then you can print out of Excel and utilize that function to have a hard copy of your match list. There's also a handout included in your packet that has this specific workaround highlighted instructions. Let us know if you have any questions for printing this match list or any other list or data out of the DC system. Okay, still focusing on that direct certification list. So a student has appeared. What is your responsibility now? How do you need to go about notifying them that they qualify? There is the attachment D, which these form letters are updated every year, found on the Nutrition Services website. And this is the approval notice that you'll need to populate and then send out to all of your students that are qualifying for direct certification. Keep a copy of this letter on file with your district as an indication that you notified the households. And this is a reminder to those households that they do not need to take any further steps. You'll see highlighted on this letter, no further application is necessary. You'll tell them what benefit program they qualify for. It was done through direct certification. And that's that. They're good to go for this year and then 30 operating days of the next school year for benefits. Few notes or recommendations here for that direct certification list. Keeping your list updated, whether that's on the DC system or printing out your hard copies, notifying or making note of any changes or transfers throughout the school year. And then sharing eligibility if a student transfers. So we see this often, you know, a student started off the school year in one district and is transferred to the next. You can request a letter, that student's approval letter, which should be on school letterhead, indicating that they qualified for benefits at their previous district and will qualify now at your district, but also an email from the former school food authority from the former district, keeping that on file, indicating in your student information system that they qualify. Having a copy of that email will be sufficient for our purposes when we come out for a review and as you maintain all of your records for the school year. All right, we'll keep going. All right, so we have focused on the match list, which is a 100% match between student name, date of birth, and gender, as uploaded into Advisor Person ID or the enrollment file. Anyone on your match list, that data matches 100%. But you might have, and sometimes in some cases, quite a few students, that is not a 100% match. There is maybe a slight variation with the year that they were born, or again, their name is spelled slightly differently. They, you know, are utilizing different last names in person ID and with your student information system. The DC system is smart enough that it's able to make a possible match, which are usually percentages anywhere between 50 up to 99% for your students. The system thinks it's a direct match. It thinks it's found the same student in you know, our student records and then in a database, but it needs your confirmation to make sure that it actually is the same person. You as a school food authority are the determining official. And so what that means is you need to compare this data and make an official decision as to whether the student is the same and can be issued benefits. We encourage a regular review of this possible match list at minimum once a week, especially here at the beginning. If you have time, it can be helpful to go into that possible match list daily and review those possible matches. Again, that's up to your discretion and what time you might have to dedicate to this on a regular basis. So when you get into the possible match list, this is an example of what you are going to see. You are going to need to confirm, deny, or maybe investigate a little bit further all of your possible matches. The information on the kind of the left-hand column indicates the information, the student line, and then the possible match line. The student line is what you've entered either in Person ID Advisor or the Enrollment tab. And the possible match is the data that's being pulled from either our database or DHHS. So you can see here as an example, the error or the issue, the reason why the match is not 100% is going to be indicated by some sort of orange highlight. And in this example, it's a missing last name. The student has the same first name, it has the same date of birth, it has the same gender. You'll often, you might see the NDE student ID on that top line. You typically won't see city and zip code. You can kind of disregard the city and zip code columns when you review matches. But what you're wanting to make sure is that this is indeed the same student. The system gave this a score of 82%. Again, hundreds will show up on your match list. Anything less will populate here. If you're sure that this is the same student, you will select the match option, and that student will be automatically added to your match list. There is not an overnight period. There is not a waiting period. That student will automatically populate and qualify for benefits on that day. You'll see them on the match list. If this is not the same student, there is a deny option. You'll select your no match, and that student will then disappear off your possible match list. They'll never go over to your match list. You said, no, this isn't the correct student. It goes away. This one though here, and this is kind of a rare example that we've included on the screen, you might need to investigate a little bit more. You might need to go back to your student information system and ensure, that you have John Day. You might want to ask that household, would he go by any other last name, or is there any other naming feature here that can help you identify and make sure that this is the same student? So you might need to investigate, utilize your student data, utilize student lookup to confirm this is the same student. I referenced our student lookup option, and this is another tile within the DC system. This one is blue, and this is where you can search for students that either you or the household believes would qualify for benefits. For whatever reason, they may not be populating on your match list. They may not be populating on your possible match list because of a name discrepancy or a bigger date of birth discrepancy. Maybe their gender is indicated differently from your student information system to the DHHS database. You are required to search and then confirm the results of these students, and then utilize that to add them to the match list. There's a lot of different student data that you can search for in student lookup. You can focus on their NDE student ID, or you can utilize more demographic data for name, gender, and date of birth. If you want to use student lookup and you get into the system and you feel like you don't know exactly how to utilize the search functions, let our team know, and we can walk through this together to make sure you can try to find these students. The DC system does a good job, though, of identifying matches and possible matches, but we have found in some rare instances a student can be matched utilizing the student lookup. Lookup results is where you go after you've entered that student data that you're searching for, trying to find a match, and it will display those results for you. You have to enter that student data. You have to be specific about what student you're looking for, and then it will appear, and I'll show you on the next screen what our lookup results screen looks like. You can review what the DC system found, and just like with a possible match, you're going to need to be the determining official to determine whether that student is correctly matched. All right, so here's student lookup, and it looks similar to the possible match list. The biggest difference here is the possible match list is populated by the DC system. You don't have to do anything to have a student show up as a possible match. For student lookup, these are students that have not appeared on possible match list, have not appeared on match list, and you, the SFA, have taken the initiative and actually searched for these students and tried to find them. A score will be displayed for the students that are listed. And then this is where you would go in and see what kind of discrepancies might exist. All right, and so for Jane in that top example, you can see the date of birth is off by 1 day. That second match is 35%. And it seems unlikely, but this is why you have the review and the remove option. And then that bottom match you can see is a little bit higher percentage, likely because the gender and the date of birth match. But this to me does not appear like it's the same two students. But this is again where you would go in, you would review, are these two data lines, does this correlate to the same student? You can either review or remove and make a determination whether these students do belong on that match list, whether their data exists. The system just couldn't come up with a match on its own without your help. Okay, we'll keep going through here. I see there's some questions and we'll have to figure out the best way to get those addressed here. I'll keep going and then we can make sure all of your questions get answered before we wrap up with this section. Okay, so there's a reports box. You'll see it, it's purple. There are a lot of different helpful reports that are related to direct certification that you can access here in the CNP system. And the time of year I find that I'm utilizing these reports the most is around verification season, October, then into November, because we ask that you indicate how many directly certified students you had and their qualifying programs. And you can access this in the match list, but also in the reports section. The two reports, well, there's actually three that I utilize and I think school districts utilize the most. Certainly that match list report, your possible match list, and then an enrollment report. All of these reports can be exported, reviewed, and then printed. Most can be filtered based on the year and the school. And then some of these reports will include that previous and current program year data. The match list report, you can actually go back in and review last year's match list, see the actions that were taken when a student was added to the match list. The enrollment report is specific to students that you've uploaded into the enrollment section. So those templates that you worked really hard to put together and uploaded, any student that populated as a student enrollment record will show on that enrollment report. So it can just be a nice way to see a comprehensive list of all the students to make sure you've included everyone that's enrolled at your district. Okay, direct verification. You'll see this tile in the DC system, and I'm not going to spend that much time talking through direct verification. If you have specific questions, let me know and we can talk more. Direct verification is infrequently used because our DC matching system and the student lookup system are very accurate. You would use direct verification if a household submitted an application to you that had a case number, but that student didn't appear on your match list. They didn't appear on your possible match list. When we tried to use student lookup, no match was found. You're welcome to try direct verification, but I'm willing to bet that if those three options, match list, possible match list, and student lookup, didn't result in any student matching, it's unlikely that direct verification will. But it can be used as a tool to verify that student eligibility instead of having to verify an application. So that can be a really nice thing, but again, infrequently used and mostly just utilized during that fall period, during when you're already verifying your applications. But is an option, is a feature in the DC system. Another common question, and this is, I think, a question we actually love to hear from schools, is about how they can make sure that staff members are appropriately being notified about the DC system. This is of, certainly highest importance here these next couple months. You'll notice your matches definitely decrease once you hit mid-year and then a little bit after. But so you want to make sure at least one person, ideally two, if someone's out on vacation or everyone gets busy, it's nice to have 2, 3 contacts within the DC system. You can navigate to this blue tile for email notifications, and this will indicate who is receiving notifications related to the match list, the possible match list, and any kind of email correspondence that goes out. You have a handout that goes through this DC notifications guide that outlines how to provide notifications to those that need it most for the DC system. Excuse me. This is what you'll see when you click in. You're able to add new contacts as necessary, update contacts. And what you're looking to do is to toggle those email notifications to on or off. The enrollment certified roster, that is just a notification. It's gotten a little outdated now that we utilize Person ID and Advisor more. but that will provide notification or a reminder that we're needing a new enrollment file if you haven't uploaded one at a regular basis. What maybe is most important, or the notifications that are utilized the most, are certainly those possible match lists and match lists. You'll get a notification as to how many students have been added to the match list, how many possible matches you need to review, and that can come on a daily basis. Whenever anyone new is added to your match list and this is toggled on, the contacts will receive an email notification, which can be a good reminder to go in and make sure that you are checking that match list with frequency, you're checking that possible match list with frequency, and notified when any of those two change.